Om Stapakaya cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishthaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Mahormuhu Namastri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. We are resuming this class after a long gap. Normally, texts like this are to be studied at some regularity. Otherwise, it's really difficult to dive deep into the text or its inner meaning. But given our constraints, we are forced to on and off cancel the classes. So now we have come to the place, the master's Tantra Sadhana, that is in the chapter 2, section 2, chapter 11. So last we saw how the Bhairavi Brahmani came and Raghuvasi ज़्यादा सबको साथ तो बात ही नहीं करते हैं. Simply, particularly if women come alone, naturally you rarely find him talking. And very surprisingly, he told Hriday, somebody has come on Bhairavi, go and bring her. So Hriday was shocked. तो कभी नहीं बोलते थे ऐसा क्या बात है? Suddenly is asking. But he had to go. And when he went and she came and met Sri Ramakrishna, she was stunned. She was supposed to help 3 people, out of which 2 she had done, and this was the 3rd person. So, of course, every small little incident in Sri Ramakrishna's life is full of meaning and extraordinary significance. So, these things are very necessary for us in the sense that, because the whole text is meant for serious sadhakas. There's nothing very attractive about it otherwise. If you're a sincere soul seeking something supernatural, seeking something transcendental, then you are qualified to study this book. Otherwise, it may not interest you much. In fact, I would say that this Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition itself is largely based on this idea of sadhana. We are not generally, we are not great speakers and this and that. Every other young person gets up as a big motivational speaker and he gets huge audiences, huge offers, appointments, and occasions. But because it has always been like that, the great souls of the order, they always used to be reticent, away from public gaze, very busy doing intense sadhana themselves. See, Vijnananji was a realized soul, he was a Brahmagyani. He would even allow people to come to the ashram. It was very difficult even to go to the ashram. He would drive them away virtually. So they always liked to stay away from public gaze. They were never in this name and fame game and all that. So I also feel that nowadays, and these aspects are not so much stressed these days. Who has time? Who is interested in sadhana? Tell me. Sadhana means investing a lot of time. People are so busy with their existential life problems, running around. They have to make money, they have to survive. It is very costly. Gurgaon, every item is 2 times it costs compared to Delhi. We shifted from Delhi to Gurgaon. I find all vegetables are twice the cost here compared to Delhi. So in such a scenario, daily life itself is such a huge problem. Where is time for people to do intense sadhana and all that? But in spite of that, if you have inclination, if you invest time slowly, actually, it is like this. The more you spend slowly, you find more and more it is attractive, more and more it is pulling you. And slowly you'll find, see, normally we always try to organize the external world. It's a very poor and wrong way of trying to organize. Organize your internal world, the external world would get organized by itself. You don't have to do anything at all. All you can do is only your internal world. You try to organize it. you find that everything is rightly falling in place. You get the right opportunities, right ambience, right people, right place to live, right job. Everything will become. Internally, we should have great clarity. What we want to do with life, what's our goal, where are we proceeding, and one has to be downright 100% honest in our aspirations, in our goal, etc. We cannot profess something, maybe for others, but internally we should know clearly what we are seeking, why we are here. So she was convinced. She clearly said that Sri Ramakrishna was God incarnate on earth. She had no doubt about this. She clearly, again, emphasized without doubt that's what it is. But here he says the Brahmani's conviction that the master was an avatar was not based upon reasoning alone. See, what happens when you say something only by reasoning? Someone with more powerful intellect, buddhi, can outdo you. His or her reasoning will be better, then your reasoning will fall to pieces. So, but if it is backed with something else, like some transcendental experience or something, then there's a tremendous power of conviction there. Then that would stay. The reader may remember that during her first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, the Brahmani had told him that she had been destined to help him and two others with their spiritual awakening. She had received that command from the Divine Mother long before she had met the Master. It was not that she imagined something. She came, she saw, she was immediately reminded of that vision that she was destined to help this person in his spiritual journey. So it is clear that the divine insight that came from her sadhana brought her to Dakshineswar and helped her to understand the master so deeply after having only one brief interview. Probably she was also from some other parts of India, may not be from Bengal, most probably, I don't know, I don't remember. So just by sheer chance, she landed at Dakshineswar because she was driven by that insight or revelation that she had from the Divine Mother. उसकी वजह से वो किसी तरह दक्षिणेश्वर आ गए हैं, श्याम के साथ भी मुलाकात भी हो गया. Now she was taking the whole thing forward. Again, the more time she spent in association with the master, the more the manner and extent of her role in helping him became evident to her. इतना तो एक आउटलाइन की तरह मिला था, तुमको उसका साधना में सहायता करना है, कैसे करूं? So the more she talked to him, she understood. First of all, no, he complained of the terrible burning that he was feeling all over the body. So for that, she suggested a remedy. Immediately it worked. So slowly, she was understanding Sri Ramakrishna in depth. Therefore, she lost no time in removing the erroneous ideas the people surrounding me had, and she also made sure that the master could practice sadhanas according to the scriptures and with the Divine Mother's grace become firmly established in the divine plane. See, one thing is, people around were having a notion that he was mad and he needs some treatment and so on because they couldn't fathom what we was doing. कुछ भी समझ नहीं पा रहे थे. उनको तो बीमारी, वो तो पागल ऐसे सोच रहे थे. So she tried hard to remove that notion. Second, she wanted him to do sadhana according to the scriptural pattern. क्योंकि विशेष रूप से बाद में हम देखेंगे तंत्र साधना में एकदम स्पष्ट है, आप ऐसे करो तो आपका ऐसे ही रिजल्ट मिलेगा. So in Sri Ramakrishna's case, he was a kind of a freak. He was not into any particular specific path. As he was going on an uncharted course in his own moods, in his own way. So all that for the normal people to understand, it's always good if you follow some particular tradition or something. So people would know, अच्छा ठीक है, ऐसे उन्होंने किया. Because these traditions have been established long, many centuries ago, and by serious sadhakas. So if someone else follows the same path and achieves a certain goal, the conviction in people will be much deeper. It was not long before the Brahmani, a highly adept aspirant, see, that's important. She herself was a spiritual aspirant. That was the important point to note. Otherwise, she would not have been able to do anything with Sri Ramakrishna. Realized that the master could not understand his high spiritual state because he had achieved the vision of God by virtue of his intense longing only, not by following one of the traditional paths enjoined by the gurus and the scriptures. This was the thing. She saw that he himself did not understand how extraordinary he was, because when they called a huge assemblage of pandits, so they were all describing, oh, he was himself admiring and clapping, and he was asking Mathur, "अरे इसके ज़्यादा दे दो, ये बहुत अच्छा बोल रहे हैं." जैसे, no, I say the more they spoke about, Mathur gave more gifts. Whoever spoke more highly, he was given more gifts like that. So here she says the only instrument, the only method, the only pillar of his sadhana was deep and intense longing for God. This is something we have discussed earlier also. This idea of longing is not totally absent in Vaishnava scriptures. Yes, there may be calling on God, but then using it as a very powerful tool, probably as the only tool to start with, is something which Ramakrishna has brought a new dimension to the field of sadhana itself, where he says you don't need anything else. If you have that deep, intense longing for God, that is enough to take you to the destination. So this is something like that, each avatara brings his own special flavor, dimension to the field of sadhana. In his case, one is clearly this, where he gives so much emphasis on calling on God with a deep longing. Longing is something, it's a tremendous sense of deep anguish of the heart, where you just can't rest content with whatever you're doing unless you get a vision of the mother or the ultimate or the God whomsoever you worship. It was unbearable pain and suffering. So that was what he felt. That is one thing. And then again, if you see, of course, that is not the occasion to exactly discuss it, maybe some other time. See, the relationships of the sadhaka in the Vaishnava or the Bhakti schools is, the Shanta, Dasya, Vatsalya, Madhura. These are the bhavas they speak of. Vatsalya is looking upon God or your Ishta as your own child, just as Yashoda looked upon Sri Krishna. Although he was Devaki's son, yet Yashoda felt such a deep bonding with Sri Krishna as her own child. That was her form of sadhana. But Sri Ramakrishna again has brought a nuance. He looked upon mother as mother, himself as God's child. So this again is not exactly none of the four bhavas that is given in the bhakti tradition. So I think that needs to be analyzed, understood, thought about, because this is not Vatsalya. This is the aspirant becoming a child of God, not God becoming child of the sadhaka. So this is something again very different. So like that, the master was often tormented by doubt. He thought that his wonderful spiritual experiences could be caused by insanity and that his physical symptoms could be seen signs of a disease. That's what, see, one might wonder how a person who is God incarnate on earth can have doubts about his realization and this and that. Then, you go even one step further. Why should an incarnation of God on earth have experiences? Why should he do sadhana at all? Because if he's verily the God himself, there's no need for him to do sadhana, no need for realization, much less the need for doubting it. But the moment they come down on earth, they inherit some of the qualities, earthly qualities. Otherwise, the whole thing will be shrouded in mystery and something which is indescribable, ununderstandable. जन्म से वैसे होते तो किसी को समझ भी नहीं आता, हम लोग किसी तरह उसके साथ रिलेट भी नहीं कर पाए. Supposing you have a God coming amongst you and doing things that are completely supernatural, what would you have with such a God? अरे वो तो अपना करते थे, मेरा क्या है? But if you find the same God in an entirely human mode of living, struggling really very intensely, going through difficulties, agonies, ecstasies, and so on, then you find some kind of a connection. That is where an avatar becomes a wonderful uh, example for the devotees or the aspirants to follow, as we can also follow that path. In a small way, we can kind of advance in the spiritual journey using this methodology, etc., to drive home those convictions. The avatara has to exhibit certain human tendencies in his life. Otherwise, it becomes completely shrouded in mystery and something which is inexplicable or ununderstandable. So, yeah, just as that, maybe the human side of it made him doubt his own experience. Whether it's all true? What is all this is happening like this? So that way he was doubting his own experiences, you might say. To free him from this doubt, the Brahmani encouraged him to practice the disciplines of Tantra. बोला अच्छा ठीक है, आप तो बोल रहे हैं, आपके दूसरी एक रास्ता दिखा रहा हूँ, यही रास्ता पे जाइए, यहाँ तो सब स्पष्ट है, यही करो यही करो यही करो, यही करने में तुमको यही मिलेगा. Then you will know that you have reached certain states of spiritual experiences. आपको तो देना आपका conviction जरूर आ जाएगा. She knew that he would find in the Tantra scriptures descriptions of how a spiritual aspirant attains a particular result by practicing a particular rite, and that he himself would achieve the same result by following the same steps. Because he was such a qualified aspirant, she knew that if he is given the right directions, clearly he would reach the end as prescribed in the Tantras. Then he would become firmly convinced that the more a person ascends to higher and higher states of the inner realm by practicing spiritual disciplines, the more he will experience unique physical and mental conditions. So this will also give him a clue. जैसे मैं तो तंत्र मत में साधन करके यहाँ पहुंचा, जैसे मैं बहुत जितनी मैं गहराई से जा पाऊं उतनी अधिक मेरा शारीरिक मानसिक स्तर पे बहुत सारे अनुभव मिलेगी. So then you know that he will become convinced that whatever he was experiencing are all not just imaginations, real experiences. As a consequence, the master would understand that whatever uncommon experiences he might have in future would be authentic and infallible. He would thus continue moving towards the goal without any worry. तो ये भी सच है, if anyone is really serious and sincere in sadhana, the assertion, the certification, the certainty of those experiences would come certainly. God would find some way or other to make sure that a sincere aspirant feels certainty about it. Because you know, anyone can claim, anyone can, people with deranged minds also say, people quite often imagine and come and say, I have had these, that, and all that. So, how do you distinguish between a very real spiritual sadhaka who is really experiencing transcendental states of spiritual journey and a person who is really saying it out of mistake or whatever it is? That certainty would come. That would be a part of his spiritual journey that would come in some form or other. The Brahmani knew that it was for this very reason that the scriptures advise aspirants to compare their experiences with the words of the Guru and the scriptures in order to verify them as true. One may ask, if the Brahmani recognized the master to be an avatara, why then should she engage him in practicing sadhana? तो महाराज इसकी किताब में बहुत जगह पे खुद ही पूर्व पक्ष होके बहुत सारे प्रश्न उन्होंने उठाए. So that you know, instead of others asking, he has raised those questions and he himself has explained in detail why it's so, so that the reader's doubts are removed. So one question he is asking is, you know, if she believed that he was really an incarnation of God, why is it that she wanted him to do all this sadhana? Why was she keen that he go through all that? We know that an avatar is endowed with divine powers and is perfect. So any effort in practicing spiritual disciplines would seem to be unnecessary. Because people do sadhana to realize God. If God Himself comes on earth, what is the need for Him to do sadhana? In response, we say that if the Brahmani had always been aware of the Master's greatness and divine power, perhaps should have had this attitude, but this was not the case. Just as Sri Ramakrishna had doubts about his own great spiritual realizations, Bhairavi also had doubts about the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. Sometimes you would feel he was avatar himself. Sometimes you would be overcome with other. So much so he should say, I have to protect him, I have to guide him. No, no, don't stay near your wife and things like that. Should guide him in various ways. Don't go to the Vedant sadhak jo तोतापुरी आया था ऐसे ऐसे बोलती थी because she thought no I should take charge. I am his guru, I am his guardian, like that. So in her mind also there used to be this play of this, sometimes believing that he was extraordinary, sometimes again feeling that he was not, so he was ordinary. So this used to happen. We have already mentioned that from the first meeting, the Brahmani loved the master as she would her own son. Of course, one reason was she had tremendous affection and concern for Sri Ramakrishna. She thought he was very her son. So that way, she was always concerned about him and his spiritual welfare and all that. In this world, only love drives one to do whatever is necessary for the good of the beloved and makes one oblivious to that person's greatness. That's also true. Quite often, you find that somebody is a very big executive in a company. The mother says, "Arey re, turn lag jayega, aap sweater pehno." Eh? Person who is running a company of maybe 7,000 employees, and his mother is advising you put on this sweater and woolen and all that. So, see, then in front of mother's eyes, all those things are hidden. She simply sees him as her own child, depending on her like that. Therefore, we can presume that out of pure love, she persuaded the master to practice spiritual discipline. This we find in the lives of all the avatars. We notice that those who are close to the avatars may from time to time be overwhelmed by their divine power, but they forget it the next moment. So, as Bhagavan says in the Gita, Atma Maya, by his own Maya, he has put on that delusion, cover of delusion, and that's why he has come on earth. Yeah. Not only that, perhaps that influence operates on those nearby also. Otherwise, so if people around an avatara instantaneously realize him to be that, obviously, they cannot anymore relate to him in a earthly sense. Supposing Kujiram and Chandra Devi had realized that Sri Ramakrishna was God incarnate on earth, although he had a vision in Gaya, it was very clear. The Lord told him, I am going to be born as his son, etc. And he was very happy, joyful when Sri Ramakrishna took birth. But still, largely they felt that he was a wonderful, beautiful son, no doubt, but he needed all their care and protection. And in fact, we should even go to those who do जो तंत्र झाड़ फूक करते थे उसके पास भी जाते उसको जो भूत पकड़ लिया आप कुछ करो ऐसे करके. So she used to even feel that way. So this happens. Those who are see, it's a long journey in the life of an avatara. As long from the time they are born till they finally exit from this world, it's a very beautiful journey which slowly unfolds. Initially, they and everyone around them are completely oblivious of this fact that this was God incarnate on earth. That's the beginning. Otherwise, it won't begin at all. That's the beginning. Then, as the child grows slowly, there are signs of manifestation of extraordinary power in that child, which the child itself notices and people around will notice. Then, slowly, the doubts start creeping in. Is that person an ordinary? How is it possible such things are happening in his life? Slowly, as the person grows in age, more and more the unfoldment happens, and then more and more the person exhibits divine qualities. So slowly the doubt in that person's mind also starts going away, because slowly that person knows, whether it's avatar or whatever it is, that he or she is endowed with extraordinary powers. This conviction grows in that person's mind, and slowly the people around him also start understanding it. Then the peak or zenith is reached at some time when it's very clear beyond doubt to people close around him that he's not an ordinary person. He's a person endowed with extraordinary spiritual powers, whatever might be the name you might give. And that person is also clearly aware that the time when the person quits the world. So leaving a little still shrouded in mystery, is not 100% clear, but largely clear. And then that influence lasts over centuries. During the time, normally there is a gap about 500 years, 400 years, like that, between one avatara to another. By the time, as more and more people meditate, pray, do dhyana, etc., 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 more and more these things become clear, how that person is extraordinary. And then, the manifestation happens in so many ways. So many people get visions, so many people are benefited. Someone prays for something, someone prays for something else. So, as more and more such incidents happen, then that is taken to the height. It becomes the most adorable form of God to be worshipped, and that peak maybe lasts for some centuries. Then again, people forget. That slowly the occasion for the next or the new avatar comes, and that's how the cycle goes on normally. So the people around definitely would not know, at least for quite some years, that this person is someone very, very extraordinary. Otherwise, they can never relate to that person in a earthly sense. Again, captivated by the avatars. So in that play of Maya, even if they see something, very quickly it is covered up. People around, if they notice also, slowly something else comes, it is covered up. Again, they have to work their way to find out what it is and all that. Again, captivated by the avatar's love, they try to do what is best for them, considering them to be as imperfect as other ordinary human beings. Sometimes the Brahmani was awestruck as she witnessed the master's extraordinary ecstasy and manifestation of power, but soon his pure love, faith, and reliance on her would call forth the motherly affection in her tender heart. She then seemed unaware of his powers and wished only to make him happy and to help him in every aspect. Because she saw, see, all the 64 branches of Tantras, just like that, one after another, she has to mention it is done, next. So obviously, she was stunned. How it is possible? Is it possible for anyone to achieve whatever is stated in the Tantra Shastras so quickly, one after another, to perfection? So then she is tremendously overawed. But then soon, no, 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 I have to take care of him. He's so dependent on me. Should assume all that and try to serve him that way. When an opportunity comes to teach a qualified disciple, great joy and satisfaction arise in the Guru's heart. The Brahmani's heart was therefore filled with joy at the chance to teach someone as supremely competent as the master. Naturally, and anywhere, if a music teacher finds a very good disciple, you'll be extremely happy to spend as much as time as possible, because here is a person who is able to quickly grasp whatever I teach. It is no wonder that the Brahmani was eager to help the master quickly experience the fruits of her lifelong studies in Australia. मैंने जिंदगी भर जो किया पढ़ा सब उसको दे दूंगा, क्योंकि here is a person who is capable of taking, absorbing, digesting, practicing everything. So she was extremely happy and contented to get such a disciple. At times, the master told us that before he began practicing tantric disciplines, he asked the Divine Mother that they were appropriate. He then practiced them with her permission. But Ramakrishna, there was only a single window for everything. He would go to the Divine Mother. Anyone comes, should I do it or not do it? So, in his own way, he communicated with the Divine Mother, got her approval, and then only he entered. Therefore, it was not only Brahmani's eagerness and enthusiasm that induced him to engage in this sadhana. He now also realized wholeheartedly, through his highly developed spiritual insight, that the time had come for him to experience the Divine Mother by following methods enjoined by the scriptures. He knew ultimately it was all that one power called the Divine Mother that is the only thing to be experienced, to be realized. He had done it in his own way. Now he wanted to reach the same goal through so many other ways, so many other different paths. Thus, the master's one pointed mind quickly and enthusiastically moved along the spiritual path directed by the Brahmani. It is not possible for us to comprehend the magnitude and intensity of his honesties. जो भी एक बार वो ले लेते हैं ना बस बाकी सब छोड़ना संभव था बाद में अब पढ़ेंगे when he did Islamic type of sadhana he completely avoided going to temple वो एकदम बिल्कुल नजदीक भी नहीं जाते थे दूर रहते थे because he knew that according to them murti is completely condemned he can't do murti worship and all that so he was ready to take food according then somehow Mathur brought one cook to cook him in that particular fashion he gave otherwise he was ready to take from even from a Muslim because you see it's very difficult for ordinary people to understand all this but then if someone completely goes beyond the level of mind, beyond the level of body, beyond all that, at that time, all these distinctions simply melt away. Melt away. What is there? What goes to make this body? How it is converted? How food becomes? All that. So all the observances, religiosity, our idea of purity, impurity, caste, these, that, everything, they all die away at some stage. When one goes beyond all that, see Sri Ramakrishna at some point in sadhana he used to go काली मंदिर में बहुत सारी हर रोज भिखारी भी खिलाते थे उनके साथ बैठ के थोड़ा वहां से लेके भी खाया क्यों मेरे अंदर वही घमंड ना आ जाए मैं एक ऐसे कोई उच्च वर्ग का कोई हूँ साधक हूँ so to get rid of all that he had even gone that far the master's one-pointed mind quickly and enthusiastically moved along the spiritual path. Our minds are scattered among mundane things. We don't possess that kind of self-reliant and single-mindedness. See, ultimately, it is all the power of mind. The mind is completely under your control, totally focused. Anything is possible. Anything, any path, whichever you select, you can succeed. But because our minds are scattered in innumerable directions, we are not able to focus in our sadhana like that. Do we have that indomitable courage to renounce everything and dive deep into the inner ocean of consciousness instead of floating on its surface and being buffeted by wanton waves? This problem. Suppose you want to do something also, immediately we think, oh, what will happen to this? What will happen to that? How will I do this? How will I do this? Should I make some adjustment? Should I do this? Should I compromise here? That desperate, daring dive. No, I throw everything else aside and do this. We can never do like that. And no spiritual realization is possible unless that kind of daredevilry comes in our life. Unless we are able to plunge headlong, simply not thinking about the consequences, then only something very supernatural would happen. After that, once people cross the threshold and get something like that, then that becomes their way of life. Then everything gets adjusted to that. The initial plunge is so difficult, impossible for 99.99% of us, for the mankind. But if someone can somehow daringly take that plunge, then the person goes to a different realm. And after that, everything is completely reworked Your brain, your nervous system, neuro, everything is rewired, reworked in totally different way, so that you're able to adjust to everything. Nothing is difficult there. The master would inspire us again and again, saying, dive deep completely, dive deep within yourself. Are we able to dive into the inner sanctum of spirituality, relinquishing our attachment for worldly objects and for our own bodies? संभव नहीं. अब आधा घंटा बैठने में 3 बार पैर बदलना पड़ता है. How to do that? So he says, when you would sit for meditation, somebody would come and lock all my joints. And hours later, unless someone unlocks, I can't even get up, he says. That was his kind of meditation he used to go into. Day after day, tormented by the anguish of his heart, the master would rub his face on the bank of the Ganges near Panchavati, saying, Mother, reveal yourself to me. फिर आठ दिन निकल गया, अभी तक माँ के दर्शन नहीं हुआ. ऐसे ही रोते थे. When we hear these words, they merely enter our ears. They rouse no corresponding thrill in our hearts at all. See, आप सचमुच एक साधक हो, when you hear this, there will be a tremendous reverberation, reflections in your heart. कैसे साधक है, कैसे किया उन्होंने. We just read it like, some incident. Why should this be? The Divine Mother truly exists. We can see her by renouncing everything and calling on her with a longing heart. Do we have this simple faith of the Master? वो जानते थे, मैं पुकारूंगा तो जरूर माँ के दर्शन मिलेगी ही मिलेगी. So he worked with that one single aim in view. One day, while living at Kashipur, the Master astounded us when he told us a little about the magnitude and intensity of longing he had experienced during his sadhana. कभी कभी उनके साथ वो शेयर करते थे क्या होता, कैसे वो रोते थे, पुकारते थे. We do not know how much we'll be able to make the reader understand what we then felt, or we shall try. That's very amazing. मैं जब बोलूँगा यहाँ, I don't know whether I'll be able to convey even in a small fraction how we felt, but anyway, let me try. At the Kasipur Garden House, we witnessed Swami Vivekananda's intense longing for God realization. He had gone to deposit the fee for his final law examination, but then suddenly felt an awakening of consciousness. He was so inspired that he relentlessly ran barefoot through the streets of Calcutta like a mad person, bearing only a single piece of cloth. He reached his Sri Ramakrishna Guru at Kasipur, and intoxicated, he expressed his mental anguish to the Master and received his grace. Swamiji was a great sadhaka. He did not get that world fame and all for nothing. It was not his handsome looks or his turban or anything. It was the inner beauty, his inner realization that really attracted thousands to him. But how would we mistake external things? No. But at one point of time, he was also under terrible turmoil. He was feeling a great anguish in the heart. And that was he, because they all knew that the earthly sojourn of the master was going to come to an end. अभी वो शरीर छोड़ेंगे, सबको पता चला. लेकिन फिर क्या करो हम लोग? Who will guide us? कहाँ जाऊं? So मैं कुछ नहीं किया, ऐसा उन्होंने बहुत अनुभव किया. एक दिन घर से निकल के दौड़ते दौड़ते सारा रास्ता, सिर्फ ओनली वन क्लॉथ और हिज बॉडी, आगे ठाकुर के पास. Naturally, when he saw that, Thakur blessed him and he felt a great spiritual awakening. For some time, he forgot to eat or sleep and absorbed day and night in japa, meditation, devotional singing, and spiritual discussion. I see, दिन रात बीत जाता था, कुछ भी पता नहीं चलता था उनको. His intense passion for sadhana made his tender heart extremely firm. He became completely indifferent to the suffering of his mother, sisters, and brothers. ये भी एक बड़े बड़े साधकों के जीवन में ना बहुत तरीका परीक्षा आ जाता है. He was born for something very extraordinary, but he was really, it's an ordeal through fire, you can say. He was put to the severest of tests. They were so wealthy. हर घर पे हर रोज 20-25 मेहमान आते थे, सब खाते पीते पीते थे, सब कुछ चलता था. Because he was a very big attorney. He was earning huge amounts. Suddenly he died. The very people whom they were entertaining, they were filing a lawsuit against him to evict them from the property. वो हड़पने के लिए, वो मकान हड़पने के लिए, निकालने के लिए प्रयास कर रहे थे. So he had brothers, he had sisters, mother, कुछ भी इनकम नहीं है, भूखा मर रहे हैं. As the eldest of those in the family, it was his duty, so to say. But he simply could not give his mind to anything in the world. So, these are all huge points of debate. कई बार हम लोग समाज में सोचते हैं ना, ये सब छोड़ फोड़ के ए सन्यासी बन जाते हैं, उसके माता पिता के नहीं देखते हैं. That is true. But, ultimately, if you understand in a very, very deep sense, कौन किसका माता है, किसका पिता है, क्या पुत्र है, ये सब बने हुए संपर्क ना. उसके कोई, is there any originality in that? By a quirk of fate, a chance of 1 in a million, some is born in some family, something like that. So nothing is. So if a person really is sincere and does intense sadhana, other things will slowly fall in place. Everything will be organized ultimately. But in between, it will be a fire ordeal. In between, it will be extremely testing time when very few people would have that courage or the conviction to pursue what they are doing. People give up easily. सहन नहीं कर पाते. But he became completely indifferent to everything else. दुनिया भाड़ में जाग, I don't care. So steadfastly following his guru's instructions, he had divine vision one after another. At the end of 3 or 4 months, she experienced the bliss of Nirvikalpa Samadhi for the first time. These incidents all took place before our very eyes. मैं खुद ही देखा, हम लोग सामने सब हुआ था, ऐसे नहीं कोई कहानी है. We saw how he was passing from one state after another at a higher and higher level. Later on, the same Vivekanand इतनी माँ के लिए करते थे ना, anybody would be surprised how a sannyasi would care so much. उनका तीर्थ में जाना, ये करना, सब कुछ. After he reached the zenith of his spiritual experience, all his concern was his mother only. उसका क्या है, कौन देखता है? Because they even tell his disciples in the mutt, अरे भाई जाओ, जाके खबर लो, ये करो, ऐसे ऐसे. Every day the master would joyfully praise Swamiji's intense devotion, longing, and zeal for spiritual practices. Then one day, the master, comparing his love and longing for sadhana with that of Swamiji's, remarked, Narendra's love and zeal are really outstanding. But during my sadhana, the volume of intensity that came here, pointing to himself, compared to that, Narendra's sadhana is very little, not even a quarter. Can you imagine, O reader, what we felt when we heard these words from the Master? So here they were witnessing day after day Narendra's intensity. He was, not caring for anything, not for the body, food, sleep, nothing, only day and night meditation and Japan intensely. So they were thinking, Array, this is something we can't even imagine. But he says, this is just a fraction of what I did. This is only for a few months. He did for years. The first few years of Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana went by like that. In a few months, very few would have survived physically that kind of intensity. That's why he says, how I survived, I myself don't know. Under the direction of the Divine Mother, the master now became absorbed in Tantra sadhana, forgetting everything else. The wise and skillful Brahmani collected all the ingredients necessary for tantric rituals and carefully instructed the master in their use during sadhana. वो जानती थी पूरी तरीका. She was adept in that. So she guided him. The skulls of men and further animals were carefully brought from a place far from the Ganges. I mean, इसमें ना बहुत कुछ है, तरीका है. So footnote भी है. In the fifth chapter of the Yogini Tantra, Shiva tells Parvati, now listen, O goddess, about the sadhana of skulls, which helps an aspirant reach the supreme goal, the vision of the Divine Mother. स्कल लेके, जो कपाल लेके कैसे साधन करना, वो भी एक तरीका है. तो पुराण से कोट कर रहे हैं, योगिनी तंत्र से, नॉट पुराना, योगिनी तंत्र. One can make an altar on the skulls of a man, a buffalo, a cat, or on 3 human skulls, or on the skulls of a jackal, a snake, a dog, and a bull, with that of a man in the center, or on 5, or on 100, or 1000, or on 1 million human skulls. ये सब विभिन्न प्रकार प्रक्रिया है, तरीका है. So, and 2 altars propitious for Tantra sadhana were built, one under the bear tree at the northern part of the temple, and the other under the Panchavati planted by the master himself. बेलतला में इतनी उनकी इंटेंस साधना थी, बाद में वो बिल्कुल उसका उन्होंने सब उखाड़ दिया. बोला सब मना करते इतना ना, don't go and sit there. He won't allow even his disciples to go and sit in that seat, because it was, he said, you will not be able to stand that, the reactions in that place. It will be so intense, you can't stand it. The master would sit on either one of those seats, skull seats, to practice japa, purascharana, and meditate. Purascharana is, day by day you increase. आप आरंभ करें 1000, 2000, इसे करके 15,000 तक, ekadashak, then again you come down like that. Ascendancy, descendancy. Japa. And meditate. This wonderful aspirant is guide, or oblivious to the days and nights that slip by over a period of some months. इतना क्या दिन रात समझ नहीं पाते थे, ऐसे ही कई महीने निकल गया. Again, we'll see next week. We'll meet again. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu. Don't know next week if no, I am here, maybe elsewhere.